Carolina are nipping at the heels of ACC frontrunner Duke. With the race as tight as it is, it comes as no surprise. There will be a hero in tonight's Sunday matchup, but who could it be?
Just in time. Save me just in time.
Will it be Florida State forward Chris Singleton, who led the Seminoles in their upset win over Duke? Or perhaps North Carolina's freshman sensation Harrison Barnes, who's fast becoming the Tar Heels' go-to guy? Florida State travels to Chapel Hill for a crucial ACC Sunday night hoops battle against North Carolina. The action starts now.
Hero's gonna save me just in time.
About a refreshing break from the pre-Super Bowl babble. ACC Sunday Night Hoops, and in fact this conference in general has been synonymous with Super Bowl Sunday matchups. And today we've got a great one. Number 23 North Carolina in to take on Florida State. Both are poised to challenge Duke depending upon who wins this game. And for North Carolina, a victory would mean they could roll into Durham for the Battle of the Blues on Wednesday, tied in the loss column. Hello everyone, Tim Brando by my side, the G-Man Mike Jaminski. You talk about outstanding frontline players. Chris Singleton is the reigning defensive player of the year, and Harrison Barnes is now beginning to play as previously advertised.
Well, you know, all year Harrison Barnes has made big shots, and all of a sudden the last 4 games, this team's offense has come alive, and so has he. He's had a couple of career games back-to-back against NC State and Boston College, and in the last 5, averaging almost 18 points a game and shooting at a much higher percentage. Looks much more comfortable out on the floor. He is a very explosive player. He has 3-point range, a good mid-range game, doesn't get to the free throw line that much, but he really is playing at a high level. Now the guy will be spending time on him, one of the best defenders in the country, Chris Singleton. Why is he that? He's got length. He can really spread out and deny the drive. He's got great anticipation in the passing lanes, and he can cover at 5 positions. It should be a great matchup.
In fact, you could say Florida State has the kind of length that would always give a North Carolina team trouble.
Well, it's going to be pitching against hitting in this matchup, I think.
Absolutely. These two have met on Super Bowl Sunday before, in fact, recently. And our Jen Hildreth will have the details on that when we come back. ACC Sunday Night Hoops on Super Bowl Sunday.
It is a big Sunday in sports, but right now, all these fans care about is ACC Sunday Night Hoops as the Florida State Seminoles come to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to take on the Tar Heels. Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Hildreth, and you know, ACC basketball in the Super Bowl is not such a strange combination. They first started playing together on the same day back in 1973, uninterrupted since 1993. NC State Wolfpack have the most appearances on Super Bowl Sunday, but look who's second, right on their heels, if you will. North Carolina making their 14th Super Sunday appearance today, and when the Tar Heels win, well, that's good for the NFC. Now, the last North Carolina win on Super Sunday came back in 2008 against, guess who? Florida State. In this game, a scary moment for the Tar Heels early as Ty Lawson went down with a sprained ankle, but Tyler Hansbrough would carry the load for the Heels, 22 points, 21 boards. Then look at this, 10 seconds left. Ryan Reed hits the first three-pointer of his career to send the game to overtime, but North Carolina went on a 10-2 run in the OT period to get the win. So a win for the Tar Heels the last time they played on Super Sunday. We'll see what happens here in Chapel Hill a little later today as it's coming up right after this. North Carolina, Florida State on ACC Sunday Night Hoops.
Back at the Dean Dome, let's take a quick look at our Golden Corral starting lineups. Florida State will have, for the first time that we've seen him as a starter, his second time overall, O'Connor White to go with Singleton, James, Kitchen, and Snare. North Carolina will counter Kendall Marshall, as documented this week, will be getting a lot more minutes than previously expected. Zeller, Henson, Barnes, and Dexter Strickland. Larry Drew left the team earlier this week. It's been the buzz around the ACC, and in fact, much of the country took Roy Williams completely by surprise. And you see, it's Kendall Marshall that will get the start and a lot on his table the rest of the season.
Well, and you talk to the coaching staff, and they feel that he has got the personality, even though he's a freshman, to step into the void and handle this. And I've seen him work in practice. He is a terrific floor general, especially in the half court.
And how well Derwin Kinchen does with him. And during the course of the game, will they run a lot of plays at Kendall Marshall, with Kinchen being more of a scoring guard? Right away, Strickland can't get the three ball to go down. He's really struggled with his shot. Not, of course, known as an outstanding two-guard shooter.
No, doesn't have a lot of length, but what he does is he attacks the basket very well, and he will get expanded time as the backup point guard.
White, not there, too strong, and Strickland on the loose gives it up to Henson.
One matchup to keep your eye on, Harrison Barnes against Chris Singleton. Singleton, one of the best defenders in the country. Harrison Barnes coming into his own, 25.5 points his last 2 games.
Zeller with the pick and pop. Barnes on the offensive boards, getting past Singleton. Marshall. Fans here are solidly behind this youngster. In fact, so much so that it may have had something to do with Drew's exit.
Well, and he's good enough from the three-point line, just under 40%, that you have to respect that part of his game. He is a pass-first point guard, but he will make you pay if you play off him.
The idea for Kinchen is to get into the painted area. The ball was kicked by Henson. Let's take now a look at G-Man, your Chrysler keys to the game.
Well, for the Seminoles, make a point. 1, Kitchen's got to dominate, and 2, they've got to score in this game. And for North Carolina, contain dribble penetration. Not a lot of great shooters for Florida State, but they have guys who can attack the rim.
North Carolina extending their defense somewhat. Singleton triggered in.
This team is much better offensively when Derwin Kinchen is aggressive, looking for his offense, and out of that, setting up teammates.
Kinchen got airborne, and Harrison Barnes into the passing lane to knock it away. Only 4 seconds left on the shot clock. And I think this team, Mike, is as good as Derwin Kinchen is on a given day.
Yeah, we talk about Singleton, but between Kinchen and then inside with Bernard James, they've got to have production out of those two.
He tried to give it to James, but misfired on the inbounds pass, and Marshall turns it over. He was being dogged there by Snare.
Well, this is, and he's performed well in his starting role, but now as we get into the second part of the ACC, for him to step up and be the guy at point, his assist-to-turnover ratio has gone down a little bit in these games.
Little alley-oop into White for the first bucket of the day for Florida State.
Yeah, nice look by Kinchen, a little two-man game right there. Carl White's very athletic. Like to see him rebound a little bit better at his position. He's under 3 a game, but he can score at the rim.
That's a reach by White. He'll pick up the foul. Young man had a great game against Wake Forest in his first start the other night.
This is just a simple screen, and then they were slow to recover from the weak side. That was a well-conceived play in a two-man game.
Barnes is so much more comfortable, it seems, when Marshall's on the floor. It's almost as if he knows where he is and gets the pass from Kendall Marshall in a better position to score.
Well, it looks like Marshall, and that was the thing with Larry Drew, maybe a half a count late in where he got the ball to guys, but Marshall, like I said, very fluid in the half court and how he runs a team.
White. Good baseline pass into James, and he knows what to do with a little floater with the left hand, and it's 4-3 FSU.
Right, shooting 67% on the floor.
Strickland, as if he were shot out of a cannon, he got down the floor.
That's what you've got to do, Tim. You've got to give him room. If you're Florida State, you have to get back in transition and make him a jump shooter. You can't let him get to the rim.
James over Zeller. Way too strong. Dented the backboard. Marshall got airborne. Strickland saves it. That pass a little too strong for Henson. Pulled away by Singleton. White left free at the top. Not there, and it's pulled down by Harrison Barnes. 3.5 minutes gone here in Chapel Hill. Barnes off the bounce.
It's going to be interesting to see, Tim, and if Singleton is as long a defender as Barnes is going to see all year. It'll be interesting to see how he's going to do getting his shot off.
James did not read that. Kinchin, trying to get his teammates involved, was going to dump it in there, and James was fooled, thought that Derwin was going to take the shot. There you see Leonard Hamilton. What a brilliant defensive coach he is. His teams and his numbers, from a defensive standpoint, always up near the top of the ACC.
But at the end of the day, you got to score points.
That's right.
And if there's a weakness for this team, it's that their offense has a tendency to disappear, especially on the road.
Saw David Asdulkis into the game for the first time. That ball was deflected. They're going to count it, say it was inside the cylinder.
Justin Knox, and what a nice way to come into a game. You're fresh in there. You haven't gotten a sweat yet. You get a nice post up. White caught out of position playing on the top. That was clearly a goaltend.
Yeah, caught it off the backboard, did Knox. The Alabama transfer, graduate student now at Florida State.
Now offensive foul on Singleton.
And we've got a timeout with 15:46 remaining. And North Carolina leading by 3. 7-4, North Carolina with a 3-point lead. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Jen Hildreth, happy to have you with us as we look at our Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Perfect combination, G.
Well, talking to the coaching staff that it's critical they get production. Talk about a team that, as long as Florida State is, they'd like to score inside and get Zeller off and get Henson going in the offense.
You noticed how quickly they got Knox into the game, and of course it paid some dividends early. The youngster that transferred from Alabama to North Carolina. And an offensive foul is going to be spotted, just a little out of control there on that baseline drive from Leslie McDonald.
And I think that's the thing you have to do. McDonald is a 40% shooter, so if you're Florida State, you want to make him a driver, turn him into a 2-point scorer if you can. He was just out of control on that drive.
Snare takes it into the paint and feeds Kinchin. Not there. Cleared by Justin Watts. Watts is in the game to go along with Knox. Leslie McDonald as well. Roy Williams always trying to keep fresh bodies. Doesn't have as many as he used to. We actually talked to him about that before today's game. You know, you think about it, the Ware twins gone. They decided to leave in May. Now you lose Larry Drew to go along with the first-round NBA picks and the graduation attrition. He's lost 13 players, Mike, in 2 years' time.
It's still tied for first in the league in the loss column.
Yeah.
You know, and so given all of that, they absorbed that, and not a lot of programs in the country could have absorbed all that.
Singleton with a quick perimeter jumper. And that leads North Carolina into a very good position. Florida State from time to time will take some shots that perhaps are a little bit early in the clock.
Very small lineup out there for North Carolina right now. This is as small a Carolina team as I can remember.
McDonald. He gets that three-pointer to go. And UNC's out to a 6-point lead.
That's what he does. Really has terrific range.
Foul spotted underneath.
And here's the look, just a little dribble handoff right there in the switch. Singleton a little late getting a handout.
Here's a look at our Pizza Hut favorite stat of the game. If you look at field goals in ACC games, they struggled early, but they have really picked it up really since that Georgia Tech debacle that we had a couple of weeks back.
Well, and Tim, and it's not to, you're not going to bag on Larry Drew, and because as I'm talking to Roy, he played very well coming off the bench for them, and that move to get Marshall into the starting lineup coincided with that 4-game stretch.
In a lot of ways, if you think about it, Mike, they have actually, by maybe not having as many guys to turn to, developed a bit more chemistry, it seems, from an offensive standpoint.
Well, offense, yes. But we'll say there's a drop-off defensively. That Larry Drew was their best defender at the point guard position. We'll see if that becomes an issue.
John Kreft got that offensive rebound and the recycle, and Kinchin is fouled as he takes it right to the rack. Leslie McDonald will pick it up.
Well, that's where we talk about with Kinchin, and the coaching staff and his own teammates have asked him to be more aggressive out on the floor looking for his own offense.
Jen Hildreth has more on Derwin. Jen?
Yeah, Tim, I talked to Derwin earlier this week, and I asked him exactly about that. I said, it seems like everybody is telling you to be more aggressive, and the biggest difference between when you guys are good offensively and not so good is you. And he said, I know it starts with me. I know that if I see an opportunity, I have to take it, and I've got to go into games with that mindset. Stan Jones, associate head coach, even telling me they may try to run a few more sets early for Kinchin in this game, especially when he's going up against the freshman Kendall Marshall.
Right, you want to put pressure on Marshall, Jen, to make him defend, get him into foul trouble, and get to Strickland on that backup roll.
Kinchin with a nice deflection there. Keys is on the floor, along with Kreft, number 50, in the garnet gold and black of Florida State. Singleton, Kinchin, and Snare, the 5 on the floor for Florida State.
Timmy, when Dual Keys is scoring, life is a lot easier for this team, and he's coming off a 16-point effort.
Absolutely. Singleton with a great move into the painted area there to make it a 10-8 game. His first basket.
Well, how about Singleton? We talked about guarding multiple positions. He started on Barnes. Now he's on Henson.
Bullock just into the game, giving it up to Marshall. And that'll be a foul against David Dual-Keys, his first.
And here's Singleton, and the good dribble drive, going with the left hand against one of the best shot blockers in the country. That was a very nice move, and something that I'd like to see a little bit more. You see Singleton's progression as a scorer from his freshman to this year. See him get into the paint a little bit more. Sometimes I think he settles for jump shots.
Strickland leaving it for Marshall. Kendall so difficult to deal with, I think, in some measure because of that cool left hand of his.
Could have taken a shot that time. I think Henson and Zeller was expecting that.
How about that pass to Henson, huh? Oh, you talk about crafty. He drove baseline, kicked it back with a sleight of hand. The cool hand Luke freshman dropping the dime. Singleton gets the bump from Henson. That's a tough match for John Henson to deal with.
Now here's the look, and against this team over the back, you're so long, it's tough to find one, driving lanes, and two, passing lanes.
Oh, that's just unfair. that's eyes in the back of your head. Freshman from Virginia, Bishop O'Connell High School, really has emerged and become a crowd favorite.
Well, it doesn't have the speed of a prototypical Raymond Felton or a Ty Lawson. But as I said, in the half court, he is outstanding.
Kreft gets called, I beg your pardon, with that foul against Zeller at the push. His first, much to the chagrin of Leonard Hamilton. Let's Pat Driscoll know about it. Veteran officiating crew, anchored by Jimmy Burr. I saw him yesterday in Chicago, in Evanston, Illinois. He made it down from the Big Ten today into the ACC. Michael Stevens and Pat Driscoll, the rest of our officiating crew. Strickland. Nice pull-up by Dexter.
That's been a perimeter game for North Carolina. Zeller, not many touches here early on in the first 8 minutes. But they've been seeing a big basket from the perimeter, 50% shooting for Carolina.
Dual-Keys lost it. Nice reach in by Strickland. All the way to the rack, and he's fouled. And on top of that, you had Singleton running into the standard, trying to protect himself with the photographer so close, but it looks as though Dexter Strickland's going to be okay. No malice intended. Fans need to get over themselves. We'll be back. 15-8, North Carolina with a lead. One of the reasons you're better than 50% on the road in the conference is because you play good defense. The problem for Florida State is never on that end of the floor. However, Mike, as you suggested, you got to score.
Well, and you look at it in conference play, they're leading it, but then in offense, take a look at the numbers. 9th in scoring, 10th in field goal percentage, 10th in assists. And Tim, of the BCS conference teams, they have the 3rd lowest road field goal percentage of anybody at 33%. And that's, you know, you just worry as you get into the tournament play that's going to show up at the wrong time.
Indeed. I think the idea this year for this Florida State team is not only to get to the NCAAs, they've done that the last couple of seasons, it's to get there and win, to advance.
Always after that timeout, you have to worry about that double team over trap.
Loucks turns it over, and then Henson just got a little ahead of himself. And the anticipation of it all, an unforced error.
Yeah, nothing more worrisome for a coach than seeing a big man with a live dribble at half court trying to take it all the way to the rim.
He was fortunate that it was deflected out of bounds. Last touch by Florida State.
First touch for Zeller.
Yep, right over James. No help coming, and it's 17-8. North Carolina extends its lead to 9. Dulkes with the dump down to James over Zeller.
You know what, Tim, it mystified me in the games where they have struggled. I felt like James should get more touches. The guy's shooting 67% from the floor. Let him get your offense going inside.
And the other thing, too, Mike, when they struggled and they're not getting anything from Dulkes on the perimeter, it's very obvious. There's Barnes. Oh, counted and a foul. His first deuce, and it was a dramatic one.
Well, you look at it, Tim, and he's only taken a little over 3.5 free throws a game, and you'd like to see that go up, and it's just that type of play that you like to see more. He's so explosive. Get to the rim, absorb the contact, and let your jump shot set that up. They've got to honor you on the perimeter.
And that's 2 on Chris Singleton, so he'll have to sit down.
And that is a big hit for Leonard Hamilton to lose their best defender now. Well, now let's see if the basket really opens up for Harrison Barnes.
Carol White back on the floor with Snare, James, Dulkes, Pinchin.
That's a tough shot.
Yeah, not there for White.
You know,
it's down by Marshall.
Only 9 seconds off the shot clock.
Zeller on the offensive boards got caught with a push against Kinchin. His first. Timeout, Florida State, 10:49 remaining. Leonard Hamilton wants to talk about it. Recognizing this is a critical stage, you don't want to let the Tar Heels get on one of their patented runs now. You've already given them a 10 spot. Not quite through the halfway mark. We talked about how strong this team has been on the road, and I think when the defense has your back, Mike, you can anticipate it. But if you were to ask who has the best road records in the ACC in the last 3 years, you probably wouldn't think Florida State, but they're right there with Duke and North Carolina.
And when you are over 500 in this league, you're playing at a very high level, and you're right about the defense, Tim. And I would have said the Carolina team before 4 games ago that maybe that's true, but I don't know the way this team is playing and scoring right now. They're going to have to score points.
I think Dulkes is one of the real catalysts for Florida State. They have got to find a way to get his confidence back with his perimeter jumper.
Well, he and Ian Miller are the only real shooters that this team has.
James trying to get free in the paint, but they've been unable to find him. There's Dulkes, and he launches a 3. Not there. Too strong. Ball last touched by Henson, and a recycle coming for Florida State.
And we've talked about the offense with Harrison Barnes and where he is in his progression, but that time I thought he defended Dulkes very well, made him take a very tough contested 3-point shot.
Ian Miller is going to come in for Dulkes now, as you mentioned, the other shooter for this team.
I don't think Leonard Hamilton can afford to have both of those guys on the floor.
Oh, Zeller went to sleep, and James made him pay. Yeah, that's 6 points for him.
Yeah, a direct pass in for a dunk is a lapse defensively in concentration.
Henson, a wraparound maneuver, and he gets the contact. We'll get to the free throw line.
You can see just right here, Zeller losing track of where his guy is. Just a screen, and you can see the vision not there. I think probably felt like James was going to clear out, and instead he just hung around the front of the rim.
Ian Miller picked up the foul. His first. And Henson at the free throw line.
I think, again, when this North Carolina team takes another step up, when the guy at the line is really dominant in a game, when he has 16 rebounds and 5+ blocks, that really elevates them.
One out of the two, and Kinchin motors it up to Ian Miller. Florida State looking to get some traction on this end of the floor. It's been a struggle for them, as it was in their previous road game against Clemson.
Interesting matchup with Barnes on Kitchen.
Now he creates the open jumper for Miller. And again, the iron unkind to the perimeter shots of Florida State.
0 for 7 now from 3.
McDonald with the dump down to Barnes. Good defensive work by James that time.
Yep, just kept vertical, never went for the pump fake, and absorbed the body.
Just a poor decision by Kinchin that time. Marshall to Zeller, and he's fouled by James. Kinchin tried to make a dynamic pass as opposed to just running the break. And North Carolina made a pay with a pick.
You know, it's an easy game when you throw it to somebody with your same jersey on and an easy pass, but when you try to do that against this team, and that was good court vision going back defensively for North Carolina to see that.
50, John Brett, 4, David Wilkie.
See the numbers on Zeller. That was an ugly free throw, but he has improved in that area too, 77%. This season, you see his numbers way up.
What they've asked him to do, Tim, one, he's had to play in twice as many games because of the injuries the first 2 years, and he's had to play twice as many minutes.
Right.
And to this point in the season, his body is held up. That's gonna be a big key for them down the stretch.
If anyone misses the Ware twins, it's Tyler Zeller. Kinchin with the jump stop. Count it.
Well, people have seen that before in this building. That looked a little bit like Phil Ford in his day when he used to come to that 2-foot jump stop and go up for the shot.
Yeah, they think it's a travel when it's not in the Carolina blue, though. Zeller with a putback. Something about that different uniform that makes them think it's a travel.
That was something that was concerning the Florida State coaching staff, that those second chance points for North Carolina.
Blue Keys for 3. Now look out. If he can get a rhythm, find his perimeter jumper, then Florida State becomes a much more effective inside team later on.
Well, last year here in a game, he shot 5 of 7 from 3, so he likes this building, and he's coming off a good performance against Wake.
Oh, that was a good pass by Zeller. Count it, and a foul. Barnes exploding to the goal.
This is as aggressive as I've seen Harrison Barnes in attacking the rim. You could see him calling for the ball, and just everybody. He's one guy that if you're Florida State, you can't lose track of.
There's the tap out, and another try. Another opportunity off the offensive boards. Perimeter jumper doesn't fall, and Zeller again pulling against Kraft. That's 2 against Zeller. Have no idea why the fans are booing that. Zeller clearly had Kraft by the jersey. Timeout. 26-17, North Carolina with a 9-point lead. Here at Chapel Hill. Just for Men game summary, live forward. North Carolina is looking forward with life without Larry Drew and doing pretty well. shooting at a 50% clip. They have struggled, though, Mike, at the free throw line.
4 of 8 on the game, and that could be an issue as things go along. But, Tim, you look at it, North Carolina shooting 50% in the floor, as you said. So they've got 10 misses, but they've got 4 offensive rebounds, so way too many. Florida State's got to do a better job on their defensive glass.
1-1 for John Kreff, the junior from Parkland, Florida, has been getting more minutes, especially with the loss of Xavier Gibson. They're hoping to get Gibson some playing time today for the first time since December. Unable to convert. Outstanding junior college prospect, Kreff. Got some really good offensive skills. Just needs more playing time in the ACC. They get used to the fast pace that this league does offer. Strickland on a blow-by against Kitchen. Pulled down by Derwin, and a quick outlet to Ian Miller. Well, he was anticipating a baseline cut that was not coming from Dulkes. Out of bounds to North Carolina. 8 turnovers for Hamilton's team.
And most of them have been just bad decisions.
Yep.
Questionable decisions, especially on the run.
And they've got twice the number of North Carolina's. Knox, not there. The question I think you've seen Singleton in effect taken out of this game, Mike. Do you run the risk of his picking up a third by putting him back in, or at what point do you get to that kind of situation if you're Leonard Hamilton?
Well, I think, one, if you can hang in there, maybe Leonard feels comfortable at the 9 or 10 points stiff arm that Carolina seems to have out there right now. If it starts to get more out of shape, and I think a guy like Singleton, as good a defensive player as he is and an upperclassman, you have to learn how to play in those situations. And he may not be able to survive that much longer with him on the bench. I certainly don't know if he can go unless this group steps up and Okara White takes over a role as primary defender.
Well, the other aspect that comes into play is when you haven't worked up a decent sweat in the first half, you may not be as effective in the second. 26-19, it's still a 7-point game, certainly not desperation time.
A small cover in Miller on Barnes, and let's see if he can get into the paint area.
And that's going to be a foul on Miller. He had Marshall wrapped up around the waistline. He has 2 now. You'll see a few of those in the perimeter today at the Super Bowl, right? A few safeties with their arms around wide receivers. We'll see some of that as the evening progresses.
Kind of pulling for Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, I just would like to see him finally vanquish all that.
After the game, head on over to FoxSportsCarolinas.com. You'll find post-game interviews, analysis, highlights, and more. And for all the real action, check out Cheer. It's all about the wildest fans, dancers, and cheerleaders from across the South, only on FoxSportsCarolinas.com. I sort of picked the Packers too, but by the way, I can't be talked out of it. Just give me a couple of good reasons why to go with the Steelers, and I'll agree with you.
And this game could be a lot more out of shape if North Carolina were not leaving points at the free throw line.
Snare, again turning down a shot. See if he takes it this time. Yes, he does. And Florida State continues to struggle when penetrating. Barnes is on the loose again, feeding Marshall. Rejected by Okara White. Quick outlet to Miller. Snare on the other end.
One of the few opportunistic baskets that Florida State has gotten out in the open floor. And I think that Barnes, you got to give it up to your point guard earlier in that, and you become a scorer.
First bucket for Snare, and it's 27-21. Knox. Softly done by the Alabama transfer.
He's come in and given them nice minutes, and they need his production with Zeller in foul trouble.
Barnes deflected that one, and now they've got numbers. 3-on-2. Harrison started it. He finished it.
See, that's what you need to do. You get it to your primary ball handlers and then run the wing.
Leonard Hamilton very upset with his team's inability to get back defensively. Takes a quick timeout with 5:41 to go.
Well, here's the first one. Now you got Barnes as the ball handler, out of control right here. You get the block on the other end, and Florida State turns this into 2 points on the break. Nice job by them. And then down the other way, it's the good defensive play. You get the deflection right there, and all he is he's off to the races out in that left wing. Strickland making a nice play, and let your finisher do what he does best.
He really does seem to be coming of age. His confidence has grown. I think Harrison Barnes was really, in a lot of respects, unfairly tabbed as the second coming when he got all those preseason All-America opportunities to come his way off of all-star performances. But the reality is he needed to get just some playing time, Mike, and he's done that.
I mean, he's had playing time, Tim, and he's hit big shots. He's just had to get comfortable on the floor. I don't think his minutes have been an issue. It's just, you know, that the expectations were ridiculous.
By playing time, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
the opportunity to get into the flow of playing at this level. Nicely done by Snare. He has 4.
And he's been either or. He's had a stretch of 6 games where he's scoring in double figures and then back down to single figures. They need him to be more consistent in the offense.
Strickland goes right into a Florida State roadblock. Xavier Gibson is in the game for the first time. He helped disrupt that play. Just into the game and just into the scoring column.
He certainly has given himself a chance to come in and, and make an impact. I mean, he was hurt in the Butler game. He hurt his knee and broke bones in his hand in the same game. He's just gotten back out on the practice floor this week.
Polak loses it again. Gibson doing the job on the defensive end. Louch, nice deal inside to White. Just like that, 6 unanswered for Florida State. And Jim Burr giving a little heads up about the delay of game there after that made bucket.
That was one of my old tricks against North Carolina, to slow the breakout. Whenever it was a made basket, I always used to let it hit my body and deflect out of bounds.
Oh, and I remember you doing it a lot in the NBA. It helped us get replays in.
Oh, you're welcome, man.
Yeah, thank you. Clearly, you were looking ahead to your future in television.
Never did get that watch from Turner.
Strickland. A tray for Dexter. Not what he's known for, but he's got 2 of them today.
I was going to say, you know, in the scouting report, I think you make him prove himself from the perimeter. Only 30% from 3, but he's stepped up.
Luke Louch back on the floor. Snare with the ball fake, giving it up to Gibson. He'll take that shot again. Tried to use the glass, a little too strong. Strickland. Strong move by Dexter. And they're on their feet at the Dean Dome.
Well, he has certainly warmed to his role, moving off the ball a little bit more. He's been aggressive in this game. They've not been able to keep him from the rim.
Snare. Watts clears it into the hands of Kendall Marshall.
Good minutes off the bench at the 4 and 5 position for Watson Knox.
Marshall, no one coming over to help. Complete mix-up on the part of Florida State defensively.
That was also a nice play, a nice seal by Justin Knox on his man to not let him come and help.
Tar Heels on a 7-0 run. White with authority. Okaro White, in just his second start, has 8.
It looks like Leonard Hamilton is going to be content to go through this half without Singleton and save him for the second half in those fouls.
And White will pick up that foul against Knox. Well, all the talk about Drew being gone, concerns for Kendall Marshall. Well, guess what? Dexter Strickland, the super soft from New Jersey, making his fair share of moves. And the wheeler dealer going with the offhand. 16 seconds remaining here in the first half. North Carolina with a 9-point lead. And their backcourt is really doing the job. If you look at what Florida State has been able to do in the past, well, today North Carolina shooting at a 50% clip. And the backcourt has been very effective. Strickland playing at a much higher level. Look at that. He's already got 10 today. And Kendall Marshall with 6, just beyond his normal average. Does have the 4 assists with just 1 turnover. And the lead is up to 11, largest of the afternoon. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Jen Hildreth, happy to have you with us here in Chapel Hill. The ball is deflected away by Marshall. 13 seconds left on the shot clock.
I think for this team, for Carolina, Tim, that it was good for them to get game day. You know, having to deal with everything with the Drew departure, and to just stop having to answer questions, get out on the floor. And Roy Williams has said his team was really focused in practice the last 2 days.
I think it's in a lot of ways freed them up. Snare too strong. Pulled down by Harrison Barnes. I mean, they found out via Facebook and text messaging. A very weird way for any player to exit his team midseason. The father informed the coach that he was leaving the team and leaving school. Good ball movement to Bullock, but it's too strong.
This is the thing. When you're against Florida State, you're going to have your jump shots contested, and Roy Williams talked about that, facing the fire, being aggressive against that defense.
Loucks working the pick and roll with Gibson. He takes it right to the rack and draws contact and the foul. It'll go against Knox. Gibson and Knox had a few words there as they left one another. And the officials are getting involved to make sure that they clean it up. There you see the numbers on Drew. He didn't start after the Georgia Tech game. I think that's where the problem began. Although, Mike, he did give them some good minutes in the games in which he did not start.
No, came in at a great assist to turnover ratio in those games, Tim. And I'll editorially, I'll say I thought he was so unfairly maligned by their fan base, and maybe the expectations too great. Just so much criticism of him coming on the heels of a Raymond Felton and a Ty Lawson.
My guess is Roy Williams will not be playing any of the Beach Boys' California Dreaming when it comes to recruiting in the future, given what's happened with his most recent recruits from that state. Barnes too strong.
Well, that was Kreft coming out and getting a hand up, a big body.
Nice work.
Nice recovery by Florida State in the last minute here to close on the gap a little.
Snare making it happen. That's actually the Mamas and the Papas wasn't a California Dreaming.
I wouldn't call you out.
But you got my drift. Marshall with a little showy. Oh, look at that pass to Bullock. Oh, that's just marvelous. Marshall's ability to see in the half court, Mike, as you touched on it, absolutely fantastic.
See and know where your shooters and safety valves are going to be.
5 assists, only 1 turnover for him. Last shot time for Florida State. Kinchin needs some help, decides to launch on his own and puts it down. Sometimes it's okay to call your own number, and Derwin did. And we end with a 43-34 North Carolina lead. Our Acura halftime report will be coming up. We'll take you back to the Final Score studios to take a look at some games from yesterday's ACC play. There's the final shot by Kinchin. Nowhere else to go.
No, and again, it's his size that allows him in that situation to get up and make that play.
Let's go over to Jen Hildreth. She has Leonard Hamilton.
Thank you, Tim. Coach, how much did you have to alter your game plan with Chris Singleton on the bench for so much of this half?
Well, that's not the issue. The issue, we were so tentative in the first half, being very careful, not wanting to attack. I'm more disappointed in that than anything. I mean, having Chris in foul trouble, that's part of the game. But on the offensive end, the defensive end, we gave them drives all the way to the basket. We're not accustomed to doing that. I think we'll settle down in the second half, play a lot better.
All right, thank you. Tim?
All right, coming up on the Acura halftime report, a look back at all of yesterday's games in the ACC, including that big one for Duke over their neighbors from Raleigh and North Carolina State. And we'll have analysis of what happened in the first half of this one here in Chapel Hill as we continue with this special Super Bowl edition of ACC Sunday Night Hoops under the sunlight of North Carolina. Half action underway here in Chapel Hill. 43-34, North Carolina by 9. And Chris Singleton back on the floor in need of a very good second half.
Florida State has trailed at the half on the road this year and won at Miami, but Tim, that was in a 55-53 game. I think the scoring's going to be a little north of that here.
Absolutely. Nice little up and under move by White as he goes reversal, and it's 43-36. So Carroll has 10 points.
Let's keep an eye on this Florida State team, as Leonard Hamilton told Jen Hildreth at the half about being more aggressive offensively.
Yeah, he's not accustomed to seeing 43 on the board for an opposing team after 20 minutes. I think he took that one a bit personally. Marshall with 6 on the shot clock, decides to penetrate and gets bailed out. A little bit of a foul. Derwin Kinchin will pick it up. Check that snare, gets it rather than Kinchin. And Roy Williams spoke with Jen Hildreth just a few moments ago.
Tim, Coach Williams telling me overall pretty pleased with the first half, although I think every coach must say they need to shoot better. They shot almost 49%, and he said we need to make more of our shots. So there's a coach for you. I was upset with a couple of defensive breakdowns in the half court, and then I asked him specifically about Kendall Marshall. He is trying to rest him around the TV timeouts because Kendall only averages about 17 minutes a game. Without Larry Drew, you can certainly expect those numbers to have to go up today.
Zeller out fighting Singleton for that offensive rebound, and North Carolina gets another crack at it.
Yeah, Jen, he's going to be up close, probably 25 to 30 minute range now going forward.
Oh, Dexter Strickland is feeling it. It had been like 9 games since, I mean, he's all over it from downtown. In today's game, Singleton answers with a tray of his own, and maybe that'll light him up.
Wow, that's, I thought, again, that was an early shot in the shot clock, but it's a guy who clearly wants to get into the flow offensively. He just wanted to see the ball at the rim.
Marshall alley-ooping for Henson.
Boy, he is so athletic and so long. You see it down on the defensive end of the floor, but that was a nice two-man play.
Going right by Zeller, too strong with it. Henson with the rebound for North Carolina. He's got 5 boards today. Just over 2 minutes gone in the second half, and the Tar Heels lead is 9. Barnes, little step back maneuver. Oh, the bank is open on Sunday.
That just saved somebody up in the third row. He saw 2 long defenders that time and had to put a lot of lift on it.
White dribbling into a double team and then turning it over.
Well, how about Dexter Strickland turning into a shooting guard all of a sudden, knocking down threes in this game. And then the alley-oop, no weak side help that time. Here's Barnes. Look at this, the 2 long defenders, first Singleton and then White coming at him. A little extra lift.
Marshall's pass was a bit of a floater. Kinchin trying to come away with the recovery, and Barnes will pick up the incidental nickel dimer foul. And so Florida State will get the ball back. Roy not at all happy with that one. He said, why not just let them play on? Why not run the play and let's play on? Singleton. At that time, James just did not see the pass coming his way, and it was going to be a difficult one for him to bring in anyway. Strickland again. Halfway down the cylinder and out. Henson kept it alive. Zeller feeds Barnes. Harrison stays with it. Just a hustle play. North Carolina winning the 50-50 plays this afternoon.
Look, and he just saw a lot of long bodies inside, but staying after and not giving up on the play. Pretty heads-up move.
Henson walked.
It's always an issue when you have a big player up top with a live dribble. It looks like a travel. It may not be a travel, but the referees will call that more times than not.
See the turnover story. Florida State eclipsing North Carolina in that category. They need to protect the ball a lot better in the second half. White, again, not there. Kept alive by Kenshin. James in traffic, unable to get it to go. Henson with the outlet to Strickland. He leaves it for Barnes for three.
And those are the looks that you've got to knock down if you're Harrison Barnes. It's one of the few open opportunities that he had.
And that's going to be a foul against James. Pushing off against Henson. Offensive foul, it goes the other way. His third. We'll be back. Carolina with an 11-point lead early in the second half. Don't forget to experience the power, pageantry, and history of the great American race. The 53rd Daytona 500 on February 20th for as little as $55. Call 1-800-PIT-STOP or visit Daytona500.com today. Well, let's take a look back at our Pizza Hut favorite stat of the game, and it's that field goal shooting story. In the last 4 games, they picked it up. I know Roy would like to have more. That's what he told Jen. But I guess you get greedy over time.
I like the fact I always equated field goal percentage with the point guard play, and I think that you could see the scoring over the last 4 games and everything coming together with Kendall Marshall at the helm. Like that.
Right to Henson. Count it, and a foul.
How about this, Timmy? Kendall Marshall, 8 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 steals. Now, the assist-to-turnover ratio is outstanding. Whenever you have more steals than turnovers, you're getting things back for your team. That's a great play, and that is a very tough finish against Henson. He had to play big in this game.
And the double whammy, Bernard James just got his 4th foul. And he had been one of the more effective players in this game for Florida State, especially with Singleton saddled with the early 2 and sitting well over 11 minutes of the first half. This thing could get away from Florida State in the next few minutes. It's danger time right now. They need a bucket. The building is ready to explode. The fans on Super Bowl Sunday are ready to be in a good humor.
Yeah, I like that play, too. Good play by Singleton to attack Barnes, make him defend, try to get a foul on him. Don't settle for a jump shot.
Eyes always up with this kid. Dulke's right in his face, and he delivers another dime right to Henson. I mean, he is just lights out.
How about that with the left hand, too? Oh. Nice finish by Henson. He's been strong in the lane.
You mentioned Florida State was going to have to score. Driscoll got run into there by Marshall.
A tough year for referees in games that we've done this year. Roger Ayers broke a couple ribs down in Atlanta earlier. That Driscoll going down on that play.
Foul does go against Marshall.
Middle of the action.
That could have been an MCL right there. Really could have. Barnes is holding his shoulder. He may be a little banged up too. There's White in traffic. Rebound to Henson. And checking on Harrison there on the sideline to see. Rubbing his left shoulder.
Yeah, that's the good news. This is non-shooting shoulder.
Right. Strickland with Henson, Marshall, Zeller, and Bullock on the floor. Shot clock winding down. Another great deal. Oh, yes, to Zeller. That's 10 beautiful Sunday best dishes from Kendall.
Wow, look at, you know, his teammates all came over to congratulate him, and I don't know that I've ever seen a kid take more joy out of making a play. Look at that wraparound pass through traffic.
Yeah, I think a lot of the headaches of the last couple of weeks are now beyond them. Now, this may be just the beginning for North Carolina coming of age. Addition perhaps by subtraction. 57-41 our score here in Chapel Hill. Oh my goodness. You can't serve it up any better than that, Kendall. Game, and he's been something else.
Right, he's had great vision. The thing I like about him, he's never in a position where he's out of control. Knows where everybody is, delivers the ball to people on time, and he's never out of control in the lane where he can get offensive fouls called against him. And Kendall Marshall, 10 assists, only 2 turnovers. Outstanding ratio.
Let's go over to Jen Hildreth. Jen?
Tim, Mike said it just a few moments ago. You can see the joy that Kendall Marshall takes in setting up his teammates. And when I talked to him, I asked him if he had to adjust to being a role of a facilitator coming out of high school. And he said, you know, no, that's always been me. He said he remembered his first game, or at least his dad telling him about his first game when he first started playing basketball. And all he wanted to do was pass. It drove his dad nuts. But that's how he started the game, and apparently he's kept up with it, and it earned him a great nickname. Tim, you're going to love this one. Call him Butter, because he's smooth and he spreads the ball around.
Absolutely. Very nice.
I loved playing with pass first point guards.
I'm sure you did. Yes, you did.
That was their job, and they did it well.
I might also add that my partner had a pretty good Super Bowl Sunday himself in the ACC many, many years ago.
Did you have to add that extra many? I mean, you know, really? I know it's 32 years ago. All right, I understand that.
Hey, be glad I can remember. At least it was in the Super Bowl era. Dulkes with a 3, and that was really something Florida State needed. They were about to go on life support if they didn't get a bucket there. 57-44.
And it wasn't the Packers in the first one either. So.
Bullock unable to hit. Kreft with the rebound. Nice dish inside to Gibson, but he turned it over. He was trying to get into his move before he had the basketball, and you see the frustration from Leonard Hamilton. That's the 12th Seminoles turnover.
He's got some pretty good offensive skills. We're talking about Gibson, and they've missed that over that stretch, especially some guy that can throw to in the low post, and you can see the rust of the layoff that he has on that play.
Leslie McDonald on the floor now. That one was nearly picked off by Dulkes. On the wing, McDonald had it rejected, stayed with it though, and Gibson comes away with a rebound. Dulkes has hit his last 2 3-pointers. From way downtown, not there for Singleton. Bullock comes away with it, gets it into Marshall's hands. Every time he touches it, I keep looking for a highlight like this one. Just unable to convert that time was Henson.
Tell you what, if you're playing with Kendall Marshall and you're on the floor, you better be alert.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get hit in the back of the head with a pass.
Eyes better be up. And Knox is going to get caught with an arm bar against Kreft. That's the 3rd on Justin Knox. But we saw Harrison Barnes rubbing that shoulder of his, the left shoulder, a moment ago. And Jen, you've got an update on it.
Yeah, at least a little one, Tim. They're just calling it a sore left shoulder, and they're telling me he is available to go back in. But when he fell down there at midcourt, he immediately came up wincing earlier in this half.
And I saw the play. He just clipped his foot with Dulkes running back. It was just an innocent thing, and he got his foot tangled up underneath, and he went down hard.
Henson driving. Would have counted had it gone. A reach-in foul committed by Leslie McDonald.
This is just the sprint going back, and they're just going in different directions. And see that play? Looked like he jammed his shoulder.
And it would have been not the one that hit the ground, but the one that he was sort of bracing a little bit as he hit the deck. Carol White, who has been one of the few Seminoles that's been productive offensively, checks back into the game for Gibson.
And you know, Tim, just with the eye test and watching this game, if you didn't have the score up, you'd think that North Carolina was really dominating.
Absolutely.
Things. The fact it's only an 11-point game, yeah, I mean, Florida State's still very much in this.
Yeah, they were down 16-17. You started thinking, well, it could get away from them, but it hasn't. Dulkes hit that 3 ball that really helped, and then a couple of empty trips down here for North Carolina.
Florida State's been using some zone, trying to hide some people, get Singleton a little time off from guard and man.
Henson lost his dribble that time as he was trying to make his move. Timeout. Just over 8 minutes gone by here at the Dean Smith Center. North Carolina by 11. live forward. Again, both teams, Florida State shooting better in this half, but you look at, again, the play of Kendall Marshall has been the difference. No question about it, Mike.
Yeah, 10 of the 14 assists. We talk about only 2 turnovers. Outstanding poise in this game against one of the better defensive teams in the country.
Absolutely.
So this is it's a heck of a performance.
Really is, and I think you're right. Florida State, based on the way this game has been going, has to feel fortunate to be only down 11 with this much time remaining. There's Kreft counted and a foul on Bullock as Dulkes with a nice pass inside.
And they've been waiting for Kreft to explode. He hasn't had a double-figure scoring game. He came back after 9 games into the year, and here's the look to draw the double team, and then the dunk there.
Bullock picking up the foul. That's his first. Unable to get it to go. Lucy Barnes back on the floor after that shoulder problem that he incurred a few moments ago. Let's see how gingerly he moves. He's fouled as he's making that move, and I think they may have tagged Singleton.
And he put up the shot with his left hand, too. Yep. So, you know, rarely guys get dinged up will it show up on the offensive end of the floor. Maybe running back defensively, you might see it. But this was a pretty good aggressive move against the zone, attacking inside.
Good news, it's a foul on Kreft, not Singleton. That's his third. But they don't want Singleton to get any more fouls with this much time remaining. Barnes off the bounce. Not there. Loose ball taken away by Singleton. Outlet to Kinchin. Dulkes dials in for 3. Singleton trying to keep it alive, but can't. Strickland in the open court.
That would have been a huge shot, and that was a great look that Dulkes had. Just couldn't knock it down.
Nice work by Singleton. That's more like it for Florida State. And then Dulkes waits with the ball fake against Zeller. And just like that, Mike, it's down to 7. A 9-0 Florida State run.
And that's they've done it off the defense. They've gotten out on turnovers.
Florida State bench is up on its feet now. I think they had really felt embarrassed after giving up 43 points in the first half to Carolina. And they had been carved up by Kendall Marshall in the half court. Marshall with 1 on the shot clock. Hello! How do you do, Kendall Marshall?
Wow, 1 second to go on the shot clock, and I thought that zone had given North Carolina some problems, but what a big bailout shot. He's approaching a double-double, Tim.
Yeah, and Leonard Hamilton could only smile. It was almost as if he said, hey, I tip my cap. If I've got one to wear, I'll tip it to you, my friend. That was a remarkable play, and it is the coming out party of Kendall Marshall. If he hadn't already had it, he's having it now. And there's a frustration foul on Singleton. Over the back, his third.
And this is a kid who, you know, he's capable, can knock down this shot. And that's what you want your point guard to do, facilitate everybody else. But when you need that offense and you need that shot, for him to step up.
Got a little Gail Goodrich in that shot, didn't he? A little left-handed soft J with the clock winding down.
Well, you're dating yourself now.
Well, of course.
How about Paul Arizin?
There you go. Zeller gets it to go. 62-50. Kreft working in on Zeller and fouled by Tyler. Kreft will get to the free throw line. Been a little woofing going on between some of the bigs since the end of the first half and into the second. Zeller and Kreft is especially. Well, coming up next, the women hit the court as UCLA takes on USC, or some of you will see Nebraska battle Colorado. The action tips off at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, right here. Kreft gets one of the two, and it's 62-51. Ball was kicked by White. Xavier Gibson looking to come back onto the floor to replace Kraft.
North Carolina looking to overload the left-hand side of that zone and they like to throw over the top to the backside as well sometimes.
Jimmy Burr is over there, I think, discussing the shot clock that continued to roll down to 18. It should be at 21. After this one, in the triangle, they'll be talking about Wednesday night. Duke and North Carolina meet for the first time this year over at Cameron. But first things first, North Carolina dealing with Florida State. Barnes, the ball fake and the deuce. 64-51.
Harrison Barnes had struggled in this game shooting the ball 4-12 before that, but that was well done.
Well, they've answered the Florida State 9-0 spurt and extended it back to a baker's dozen. Kinchin in some trouble, gives it up to Dulkes from way downtown. Gibson trying to keep it alive. Last touch by Strickland. Florida State will keep it. The power of a ball fake, right, Mike?
Yeah, and it's amazing how many guys go for it like Dulkes. You're not going to block that shot. Just close out under control and get a hand up on the shot. Instead of getting caught in the air, you give up 2 points.
Dulkes trying to work free against Strickland. Nice pass in to White. Now Henson airborne, but he slapped it away anyway. And then a frustration foul against him.
You're not going to get a weak effort up in the rim against John Henson. He's too long. He doesn't go for the pump fake, which is the key on this little roll. Watch him stand his ground right there. Great defensive play.
And Lillard's like, well, what can I do? It's one of those days. One and one here for Henson. Offensive rebound on the tap out by Zeller. Everything going right for North Carolina this afternoon. Marshall feeding Zeller into the paint. Hits the roll. 66-51. Another assist. Dulkes for three. Way too strong. White saved it to Singleton, and the runner in the lane goes down. 9 in the game for Chris Singleton.
But they're going to, I think, North Carolina, they'll absorb 2-point baskets at this point. And Dulkes, he's had a few good looks at threes and hasn't been able to convert.
Singleton almost got the steal, and then the push underneath as Zeller was taking it to the rack. Timeout, 7:33 remaining. Florida State had clawed to within 7, but North Carolina answered on this Super Bowl Sunday and lead by 13.
North Carolina with a 13-point lead over Florida State in the second half. And one of the key players for the Tar Heels over the last few games really has been freshman Harrison Barnes. And Mike and Tim talked about it early in this game. This freshman came in with so much hype and really struggled early on. And I asked Kendall Marshall about it this week. I said, it has got to be good for all of you guys to see Harrison come out and finally be finding some success on the court. And he said, oh yeah, we've seen him make the tough shots in practice all the time, but he was making it tough on himself in games, trying to take tough shots. Now they're falling for him a little easier, coming off 51 points in the last 2 games and off to a good start here today as well.
Now, the one thing, Mike, that we knew about him even when he was struggling was that he was capable of taking and making a big shot. Now I think what we're seeing, especially with Kendall Marshall kind of becoming the anchor of this offense, a level of confidence in his all-floor game that previously was not there.
Becoming a much more sure shooter. And you like right from the start. I mean, if you're going to have one quality come out early, it's taking and making big shots. But he's become much more consistent during the course of the game, although not having a great shooting day today.
See if Florida State can make one more run. Kinchin gets the runner to fall, and it's 68-55. They've been able to usually make their runs when down 15 or 16, fall back to within 7 or 8. That's been the way this game has gone.
And this zone has calmed North Carolina down a little bit, but the first 3, big time for that to step up for Harrison Barnes.
14 for Barnes. And at the 7-minute mark, it's a 16-point lead again. Singleton in traffic. Sort of threw that one up from the hip. Went after his own rebound and tipped it through.
Well, you see the respect that they have for Henson because there was no double team help coming down on him. They were letting him go one-on-one, but that was a good second effort by Singleton.
One thing about sitting him for the rest of that first half, it allowed him to play with a little more abandon here in the second. He's only picked up the one foul in this half.
Look at that.
Oh, Marshall to Zeller. 14 dimes dropped on this Super Bowl Sunday. Wow.
Look at these 2 more than the entire Florida State team.
Gibson quickly doubled. Got Zeller airborne, unable to convert the chippy. Out of bounds. And it'll go to North Carolina.
As I said, he plays so low to the ground. He never gets out of trouble. A nice wraparound right there. If you're a big and you're playing with him, just shape up, have your hands ready, and you're going to get some baskets.
And again, I point back to this because sometimes when you're guarding a guy like Marshall, he becomes more difficult to deal with because of the left hand. And he can go to the offhand very easily. We've seen that. Head always up. The precision of his passes, too. Zeller is fouled as he takes it inside. Very rarely do you see him throw a pass, Mike, that cannot easily be corralled, even if it's a bounce pass into the interior.
I like the fact that, you know, with Zeller, that he didn't get frustrated, really was not a part of the offense in the first half, didn't force things. They've been finding him a little bit more here in the second half. And I like that too with you know, delivering the ball to the post. It seems like it's a dying art, but Kendall Marshall really does a nice job of delivering the ball.
He appears fresh and so into every play. There's a level of humility with his game. His teammates, you can tell, really respect him. I don't know how many times today we've seen some rewards coming after the pass. 3, 4. All of the players on the floor coming up to congratulate him. Kitchen on a blow by that time. Now, that has been the one issue from a defensive standpoint. But there's the answer. How about that pass?
I love the fact as soon as Marshall gets the ball, he's looking up the floor, and that was a beautiful lob over the top.
I mean, this is just a clinic this kid's putting on. Kitchen leaves it for Singleton. He rattles home the 3 ball. 14 in the game now for Chris as he reaches his average. Strickland drives into traffic and gets it to go in. I think that as the play continues to go as well as it does for Marshall, Strickland only gains confidence.
Team looks a little different than the one that went 4-3, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah, you think? And the one we saw at Georgia Tech a couple of weeks back? Henson reaching in, picks up the foul against Singleton. Third foul on Henson.
And this is the thing that always impressed me with Jason Kidd. Just as soon as he got the ball, immediately looking up the floor in attack mode. And Henson's just so athletic, beating him. And that was off a made basket, too. That was not off a miss or a steal.
Mike, we cannot escape this. If you go back to the decision, and there's James with the violation into the lane, so no opportunity for Florida State. All Leonard Hamilton can do is smile. It's just one of those days. But if you go back to what happened in the Georgia Tech game, which led to Marshall starting in the following outing, and that, without question, had to have an impact on the decision that Larry Drew decided to come down with this week. It may be probably a good thing, ultimately, for North Carolina, as Henson hits a 2-ball. It may have been better for them to be blown out in that game. You think?
I don't know that you would have gotten Roy Williams to agree to that at the time, but sometimes dire results lead to good results in the end, and that we saw that game at firsthand, and that was one of the poorest performances we've seen from North Carolina, but since that time, completely different team.
All right, G-Man, time to take a look at our Lexus playbook, and how about the special passes that we've seen today? They've been incredible.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, he's listed as a freshman, but he is not playing like a freshman right now. I've been very impressed with his game. Every pass seems to be right on the money, well timed. delivered so that each player can score, not have to put the ball on the floor. That's a big factor when you're throwing the bigs. And he has manufactured a lot of offense by himself. 15 assists to 2 turnovers.
I have to go back to our conversation we had earlier with Roy Williams in his office. Jen and Mike and myself were in there, and he was talking about some of the lessons learned from Dean Smith and how some quotes that Smith would utilize as a head coach that many times in life were looking backwards, but you almost coach and play moving forward. And that's what this program is doing now. And he had ample opportunity, Mike. We gave him plenty of chances to say some things about Larry Drew and the manner in which he decided to leave. And to Roy's credit, and you would expect this, he had nothing but kind words, and he was surprised and upset to some extent that it had to happen the way it did. But he's just living in the moment and in the future.
Well, and you can't. You have to look forward. You can't sit there and say what if. You have to coach the team that you have in front of you. And when you have the numbers speak for themselves, Tim, in the last 5 games.
Absolutely.
With what they've done with Kendall Marshall. And then I believe in my heart that Roy Williams will always be a defender of Larry Drew.
Absolutely. He massaged that situation as well as anyone could have. There was a foul underneath as Kinchin was going for the alley-oop. You recall the way he handled the substitution pattern at Georgia Tech, Mike. He went all 5 for all 5 with Drew starting. I think the conventional wisdom was that Kendall Marshall was comfortable coming off the bench and that Larry Drew was not. So the way the coach handled that was by substituting 5 for 5, and then shortly, maybe with a few minutes left in the first half, he would go with some of the starters with Marshall. But ultimately, the young man just decided he wasn't comfortable, and through his father, let the program know he was leaving.
Yeah, he had to do it. I mean, the fact that he was trying to keep both because they hadn't recruited a point guard for next year.
That's right.
So, you know, the idea that it was going to be both of those guys for this year and another year.
1 out of 2 for Singleton, so the lead remains at 17 with under 4 to play. Got to run a little clock here. Henson setting the high pick. Zeller gets the feed. Jump hook not there, but it's saved by Barnes to Strickland. Marshall, time winding down, and it's a shot clock violation for North Carolina. 3:26 remaining, and nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina on a Super Bowl Sunday with your point guard is delivering the goods. 3 by 3 by 3. 80-63, North Carolina leading Florida State. What has been a remarkable day for Kendall Marshall. Duhlke's running the curl, can't hit, but he does get the follow from Ian Miller, skying for the putback, and it's 80-65. Marshall, with his 15 assists, has set a freshman record at North Carolina today. Most assists by a freshman, breaking the previous record held by both Ed Cota and Phil Ford at 14. And a runner for Henson.
Yeah, I'd like to know how many turnovers those guys had in those games. I mean, that's the big thing for me.
Yep. Felton, by the way, has the all-time record with 18 in a single game. This is most by a Tar Heel, however, in an ACC game. Those were games against Howard, against BYU, so non-conference games for those guys.
I know Phil Ford was padding his stats against weaker competition.
Well, he would argue they ran too many 4 corners, so he couldn't get any more.
Well, I always used to tease him about how could a point guard be the all-time leading scorer in the history of the school.
Right. Harrison Barnes is really in touch as well. 16 for assists for Marshall, and for Barnes, 16 points.
And I think now if you're Roy Williams, you take a look at getting Marshall, giving him a little curtain call, and getting him on the bench for some rest.
Yeah, they do play a big one on Wednesday, don't they? You and I will be here for it. Look forward to that. Always special, the Battle of the Blues, whether in Cameron or here in Chapel Hill. Pass was a little too strong that time, and Kinchin comes away with it. Singleton fouled by Strickland. Think about the confidence that North Carolina is going to carry into Cameron for this matchup. This is not at all the game, perhaps, that we expected a couple of weeks ago.
Well, and you talk about firsts, and it's going to be a first for Kendall Marshall and Harrison Barnes over in Cameron Indoor Stadium. And with the fierce recruiting battle that went on between Duke and Carolina over Harrison Barnes, there might be some interesting signage in the hall that night. And he's going to face Kendall Marshall. That guy, what an incredible game, is going to face another senior point guard for the second consecutive game in Nolan Smith.
And a Player of the Year candidate without question, Nolan Smith.
A National Player of the Year.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. But again, I think it's the perfect storm when you think about it, Mike. The greatest rivalry in all of college basketball. You've got this youth movement, and perhaps really, when you think about it, a changing of the guard at point guard, making all the difference in the Tar Heels going into this game against the more veteran defending national champion Blue Devils.
Well, how about we had that, Tim, we had that graphic about Florida State's defense and holding opponents under 50%. North Carolina 53.4 on the game.
Yeah.
This is against one of the best defensive teams in the country. You drop 85 on Florida State, you're doing some work.
Last time was against Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament. Marshall, by the way, did get caught for a carry a moment ago. Singleton gets tied up with and picks up the foul. Offensive, it'll go to North Carolina. So technically, I think we're up to 3 turnovers now on Marshall. And Jimmy Burr with the explanation. Still 16 assists to 3 turnovers. And the Seminoles will play at Georgia Tech, Virginia at Wake. So they've got really a scheduling opportunity to make up ground. And listen to the crowd respond to Kendall Marshall.
A big smile from Roy Williams. You know, how you think about players of impact transferring at this time of the year, Tim, and I can't remember when it's happened last, but for him to step into the void, and there's a collective sigh of relief for the North Carolina fan base.
Yeah, I get the sense that some of the fans feel vindicated to some extent by today. The performance of the young man, no question.
I still say that he was unfairly criticized in his whole time here at North Carolina.
Don't disagree, as you see Justin Knox get the bucket, and now Roy's going to empty the bench.
The guy that was overshadowed too is Dexter Strickland in this league. I mean, look at this. Look at this. He was just in. He's taken control and ownership of this team. That's not easy to do for a freshman, and it's not easy to do at midseason.
No question. James in some traffic. He is fouled inside. Daniel Bullock picks it up. He'll get into the box score.
The only thing, and there you see the numbers right there, 16 assists, 3 turnovers. The only thing for North Carolina right now, the thing that's out there is their free throw shooting.
Yep.
And is that going to, at what point does that become an issue in a close game?
Tough loss for Florida State in many respects, although they only dropped to 6-3 in the conference, 15-7 overall. North Carolina will move to 7-1 in ACC play and will be tied with Duke in the loss column when they go into venerable Cameron Indoor Stadium on Wednesday night. Miller off the front iron. And the foul given up by Singleton. As Bullock, that's his 5th. I think Chris was ready to leave. And he'll take a seat. But this Super Bowl Sunday, Mike Javinsky, will be about the day Kendall Marshall took control of this team. That's what will be remembered from this day.
It's funny, Tim. I came up here to watch practice in October, and even then, as he was battling Larry Drew, and in practice, you could see in the half court that he really just had like a conductor's wand and ran a great offense. Like I said, he's not the greatest athlete in the world. He's not going to blow by you with great speed, but I tell you what, there's a lot of ways to advance the ball up the floor, and he does it with the pass as well as anybody.
Well, Daniel Bollock's a happy man, youngster from right here in Chapel Hill, Carrboro, North Carolina. Just nailed 2 free throws. Ever the walk-ons get in, that's a special thing here in Chapel Hill. Fans want to see one more, but Roy won't let the shot be taken. You know that. The final 89-69, North Carolina over Florida State. Martial law on display, 16, a record for an ACC game by a point guard at North Carolina, and a freshman record-breaking performance in any game for a North Carolina point guard. That's special stuff, partner.
Well, and I tell you what, you don't know how a team is going to react to a departure of a player like Larry Drew. You don't know how the locker room's going to be. And I think I've seen this team looks really focused today. Roy Williams talked about him being focused in practice. A terrific and a terrific effort by Kendall Marshall to roll his team. Dexter Strickland too, and their backcourt really played well.
What this means for them in the next game with Duke, and that will be the buzz all week long here in the Carolinas. How do you think it helps them going into this game on Wednesday night?
Well, it should give them a lot of confidence, and I just see a very cohesive group out on the floor. More importantly, I see a group that enjoys playing with one another. There was a lot of smiles out there, and that's easy to do when you're winning and playing well, but I think they've reacted as well as they could to the events of this week.
It's all about trust. Dean Smith has said it many times over, and Roy Williams, I think, found someone he can trust in the backcourt. Kendall Marshall with a record-breaking performance today. Our many thanks to our crew. Today's game produced by Joe Vicious, directed by Lonnie Dale. And we'll be with you again for ACC Sunday Night Hoops in South Beach when Duke travels to take on Miami, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific next week. Now, for Mike Jaminski and Jen Hildreth, Tim Brando saying so long on this Super Bowl afternoon from Chapel Hill.